Welcome to our tutorial on mission number 1, Move It. In this mission, the objective is to learn how to use the Move tool in Blender. So let's get started. The first step is to make sure that you are in mission number 1, Move It. And if you scroll down, under mission task, you will download mission 1, Translating Objects.blend. Just click here to download. So let's do that. And press download. Alright, so let's see where this has saved, and we are going to move this to the desktop. So let me show in folder, and it's in my downloads folder, and I am going to place it in on my desktop so that it is easily accessible. Alright, so let me close all of this here. And let's open up Blender, and here is my mission 1, Translating Objects. I'm going to double click on that. Alright, so let's go over what we see here and the Blender interface. Okay, and so what we see here is a number of tools that you will get to use in this mode, what would you call object mode, because what we see here is a bunch of objects. And these are what you call primitive objects, or another word for that one is primitive meshes, which are three-dimensional objects. So on the left side of your screen, we see a number of tools for object mode. We have the select, cursor, move, rotate, scale, transform, annotate, and measure tool. Okay. To the right, we see the scene collection pane or dock, and this is where you can select a particular object or mesh in your viewport, which is this big screen in the middle. So if I click on Riverside 001, it's going to highlight that primitive mesh right here. Same with Riverside 002, it will highlight it. Another way to highlight an object is to left click on an object. So I'll just left click that, and that is your bridge, and it highlights it right there as well. In your scene collection dock, you can also hide objects as well by clicking on the eyeball and hiding it right there. Alright, and on the bottom, this is more properties, a property window for your primitive meshes, which we will not focus on until a later mission. Okay, so the first step is to make sure that we are in object mode. And right here, we want to be in using the move tool or your translate tool. So to translate or to move means to move these meshes to different coordinates of this three-dimensional plane. Okay, so let's go over how to orbit around the origin, and this center is where this dotted circle or sphere is what we call the origin. Okay, and that's the center where everything pivots around. Okay, so right now to orbit, I am selecting on my mouse the center button, and and while I am holding down the center or the scroll button on my mouse, I am moving my mouse left and right to orbit. Okay, to select an object, I am left clicking on the object. To zoom in and out, I'm using my middle button again, and I'm scrolling up to zoom in and back to zoom out. And if you right click, then it gives you more selections, which we'll focus on later on. Okay, so that should give you an overview of how to use it, of how to use the interface and how to use your mouse to navigate in the three-dimensional space. Okay, so you have a whole bunch of primitive meshes. So what the question that you might have is, what are we going to be doing with these primitive meshes? Let's go back to the mission. Number 1 on teammoringo.org. So if you scroll down on mission number 1, your goal is to create a scene that looks like this, where you have 4 trees, you have a river in the middle, you have a bridge, and you have 2 pieces of land that is adjacent to this blue plain or the river. Okay, so it's going to look like this. So let's prep that one up right here. And I'm going to give you a couple of hints of how to manage your scene. There's another tool up here. Then this is another way to orbit around your three-dimensional space, and this is called a preset viewpoint. What I could do is I can click on these axes here, and so if I click on the Z-axis, this will give us a view from the top. And so I recommend starting from the Z-axis or the view from the top, because we can position these objects very easily. So I'm going to click on one of these objects, and I can click on the circle here, the circle area, and move it around this three-dimensional space. I can also position it here and use the red arrow to move it left or right, or up and down using the green arrow. And there is a blue arrow, but we're not seeing that because we're on a specific angle where we don't see it. But for now, let's set these areas up right there. From the top, it might look perfect. Oh yeah, let me get this bridge in here. From the top, it might look perfect, but once we start to orbit around, we are not done yet, because it looks like the river's on the bottom and these 2 riversides are not appropriately set next to the plain or the river. And so we have to look at this from a different angle. I'll be choosing the Y, or actually the X angle right here. The trouble is we can't see the plain or the river, but we can select it to see where it's at. It looks like it's right there, and we can start moving these riversides to that area. So let's do that. Let me find the plain here so that we see it on this line right here, and then we'll do the same thing to the other river plain. And now I'm going to place a bridge right on top of that, and we are going to see if this works here. And I'm going to rotate it around, and what we see is a nice representation of the river, the 2 riversides, and the bridge. Okay, so we did a piece of this mission here, and that is how you use the move tool. Your goal is to construct the rest of it, so you'll be now focusing on the trees and the branches, and making sure that from the top angle, or from the top angle, we have 2 trees here, 2 trees there connected to the branches. Once you are done, make sure you save your work. If Blender, the title up here, has a star symbol, that means you've made some changes to your Blender file. So you want to go to File, press Save, and now the star or the asterisk sign disappears, and that means you have saved your changes.